Hello, I wanted to talk to you about tomatoes, one of my favourite vegetables or fruit, and they're really easy to grow, even in Britain. I start them off in early March in pots this size, that's 9 centimetres, and I like these because they fit very neatly into almost any size of container, and I use the mushroom trays, the old mushroom trays, and you get 12 in very neatly, you can carry them, absolutely brilliant. I use Silver Grow compost, which is a wood-based compost. There it is there. And I find it's the best of the peat-free composts. They don't stay in these pots very long, and I'd probably sow 2 per pot. And depending on whether they've thrived, if there's a weak one, I'd just get rid of it. Be ruthless at that stage, otherwise you're looking after a plant that's never really going to thrive for a long time. It's a lot of energy and effort. If they both thrive, no problem, just split them when you take them out of the pot. They will grow really quickly if you've got good conditions, and so don't let them become really root bound in their pot, and that means where they wilt quickly, you can see that they're sucking up the water in no time at all, and they're beginning to wilt, and the roots, you can actually see them coiling around the bottom if you take it out of the pot. You don't want that. Move them on quickly. And I find that this applies to any plant. If you move it on quickly, it's more likely to thrive. Having planted out your tomatoes that were in pots, you can then plant them out into the greenhouse, or you can grow them outside. Now, in Britain, we're really susceptible to a really horrible fungal disease called tomato blight, and it also affects potatoes. And I've got some photos of tomato plants and fruit that have been affected by it, so you can recognise it. Mine here are growing in the greenhouse, and the great thing about that is that the blight can't get in because they're not exposed to the rainwater, which is how it travels. However, we do water with rainwater here, so I have to be quite careful to just water at ground level and not spray the leaves of the plant. I'm growing 3 varieties here in my greenhouse. This one here is called Jen's Tangerine. It's a sort of medium-sized, really nice salad tomato. This next one was sold as Gardener's Delight, but it's really quite big. So I'm wondering if Gardener's Delight is getting bigger, because it was always sold before as a cherry tomato. There it is by comparison with this one. And last of all, we go down here, is chocolate cherry, which is really delicious. I find it's a bit sharper than these, which are a bit sweeter. But the 3 of them together are absolutely lovely. If you're short on space and you want to still grow tomatoes, you can actually grow them in a hanging basket. It is a bit more labour intensive because obviously they've got a smaller area for their roots, so you have to water a lot more often, and you would have to feed as well. And by feed, that's just a gardener's word for fertiliser. I'm an organic gardener, I would probably just use liquid seaweed, diluted liquid seaweed, but it is perfectly possible to grow them in these pots, these hanging baskets. Now unfortunately, these ones, despite being in a tunnel, they've actually been hit by tomato blight. You can see it on the leaves here. But it doesn't seem to have spread to the fruit badly, so we've had quite a few. I don't know if you can see there, we've got a few hanging baskets hanging down the middle of the tunnel. And although the blight has hit, we've still got ripening tomatoes. And on that subject, this here is a variety called Crimson Crush, which is sold as being blight resistant. Now, it's not totally blight resistant, I would question that. You can see little bits, so the ends of these leaves here have got it, and this tomato here, that's got blight on there. But this year, so this is August 2021, I'd say this has been one of the wettest summers I've ever known, and in spite of that, these Crimson Crush have performed really quite well, and we've been able to pick quite a lot of decent sized tomatoes, with a few exceptions. When you're growing your tomatoes and you've planted them in the ground or in the big pot that they'll eventually go into, you want to train them as what's called a cordon, and all that means is that you have one central stem. So that's a good example. Up it goes, one main stem all the way. Now the tomato doesn't agree with you here. It wants to branch out, it wants to make side shoots. And here's one that I've missed. So if you look down here, this is called between the leaf axil. Here we go, between the leaf here and the main stem, there's a side shoot. Now what you do is, as the tomato is growing, you nip out those side shoots. If you're feeling like you want to propagate more, you can actually take cuttings from these, you can root them, but I tend to just put them on the compost heap or put them down at the bottom of the plant. The other thing it will do often is send out new ones from the bottom, and here's another example right here. Okay, so there's a brand new shoot there because this tomato is just desperate to grow a little bit more. I don't think I can get that off without secateurs, so I'm going to leave it for now. So you've gone along, you've pinched out your side shoots. See another one, it's quite addictive actually, and it leaves your hands smelling really lovely. The other thing you need to do is to stake your tomato plant really well, because look at the size of these beasts. They get really big and really heavy. Now these are bits of roofing batten, which I bang in with a club hammer. This is not dainty work, you know, you've really got to try hard. And here's an example, even despite that, of one where it's toppled and it's actually just leaning against the side of the greenhouse, and actually it threatened to take the next one with it. So really strong stakes, a bigger pot than you might imagine if you're growing it in a pot. You see so many tomatoes in a pot, you know, this sort of size, and they just fall over and they run out of water too quickly. So really big pot if you're going to do it in the pot, otherwise really well staked in the ground. In terms of nutrition, tomatoes are really, really fabulous. We all know they've got vitamin C in, but they've also got vitamin A and vitamin K. And they contain antioxidants, which, to put it simply, they sort of mop up a thing called a free radical, which is very involved in causing cancers. So these are little bombs of anti-cancer goodness. We've also got in there potassium and manganese and fibre. Fibre keeps things moving, and it's just they're wonderful things to put in as part of your diet. And we all want a lovely, colourful meal, and this is a great way of getting it for probably 2, 3, even 4 months of the year if you grow your own. Oh.